So joining us now on the podcast is Phil Brooks. You know him better, of course, as CM Punk, who fights Mickey Gall at UFC 203 on September 10th in Cleveland. And right off the bat, Punk, I want to say thank you for joining me. We're taping this on the 4th of July, so gracious enough to give me a few minutes on a holiday. How are you celebrating American independence today?
By sparring, of course, what every good red-blooded American does on the 4th of July. We just got done sparring with the team, and then some extra credit. But that's really about it. I'll probably work out again in some fashion later on, but I think I can see the fireworks from Summerfest from my apartment here in Milwaukee, so I'll probably just do that.
Yeah, and what is, are you actually in a training camp now? As I mentioned, we finally have a fight date. It's September 10th. You've been sort of, training consistently for ever since you announced that you were coming to the UFC in late 2014. Is this, now that you're in a quote-unquote camp, does anything necessarily change? I mean, you've known about your opponent for a while, so really is anything different as it has been, or is it just kind of business as usual despite that date being on there?
No, I definitely think things have changed. The mood has changed. The pace of things has changed. The frequency of things has changed. I don't really have such a set schedule because, everybody's so busy at the gym. We get a lot of fighters coming up that are fighting, Anthony Pettis, Eric Koch, you got Chico Camus. There's a million guys in our gym, and it seems like everybody's got a fight coming up, so everybody's busy. But I think that helps. The guys on top bring up the guys that are lower than them, and everybody sees everybody else working their ass off. So it's a good environment. But not a whole lot's changed. It's just maybe the intensity of things.
And, you had hoped that your debut would come this summer, and then that was postponed by the back injury. And I don't think we need to go, completely into that. It sounds like everything is firing on all cylinders now, that you're sparring on the 4th of July, so you must be healthy, and that's got to be obviously a great feeling. But what was that process like, and what was the rehab process like, and what have the doctors told you in terms of, moving forward, should you just be good to go? You should actually be better than what it was before surgery, I'd imagine.
Well, the whole thing sucked, you know what I mean? And not even talking about what people's opinions are and what other people say, or just, talking about like me and my inner circle, I was pretty devastated. It didn't so much put things in perspective. I knew I was going to come through, and I knew I was always going to fight, but it was just a question of when, and when you're hurt, like I was hurt, you just, you want things to come faster than they do. And obviously, like, I wish I would have fought already, but, things happen. I had a back surgery, you know what I mean? So, like, you kind of got to put it in the hands of your trainers and your physical therapists and your doctors and stuff like that. Doctor, I think, told me what he tells everybody. He told me there's 10% chance I'll re-herniate, but most people don't. He's a super accomplished doctor. He's the same guy who does all the spine stuff for the Chicago Bears, so I knew I was in good hands. And he made me take my time. I was super active immediately after surgery, but I wasn't doing things that I wanted to do. You know what I mean? But I'm back at it now, and I'm healthy and 100%, and I feel better than I really actually ever have.
Actually, herniated disc is something that I've had a lot of conversations about recently just because of what happened to Chris Weidman. And one of the things that Stefania Bell, actually, who is a medical consultant at ESPN, she mentioned that the lower in the back, obviously, that's actually better because then you don't have to, you don't have that pain when you're turning your neck as much. But where was yours? Do you mind telling us? Where was the herniated disc?
Yeah, mine was lower. I believe it was L5S1, which is like the common one that I hear everybody say that they have, they have problems with. So everybody that I've run into so far that were like, oh yeah, I had a herniated disc too, or I had back surgery, or I had back problems, they all say L5S1. So yeah, it's a pretty commme injury, especially in combat sports. You're moving in three different directions at once, and somebody's body weight's on top of you. I believe, poor Michael Chiesa just, he's got a ruptured disc. It happens, and it's one of those things. You say, okay, what do I got to do to make it better? Okay, you do it, and then you move on.
When you joined the UFC, I mean, you knew what you were getting yourself into in terms of public perception, and you're a guy who's active on social media, and you've talked about this before, and the amount of hate that you get, and the doubters and the critics and all that. And right off the bat, when you were talking about the back injury, one of the first things you said was, of course, it kind of gives them fuel for the fire. Of course, they're going to jump on that immediately. Has it been about what you expected when you told yourself, I'm going to sign with the UFC, it's going to be a lot of publicity, obviously, I'm going to get my first fight in the UFC, there's going to be a lot of doubters and a lot of people jumping on that bandwagon against me. Has it been more or less? I mean, how has it been, especially since it's taken you a long time to get into the octagon as well?
No, I think it was business as usual, as I like to say. I didn't expect any more or any less. But people like to dwell on the negatives, and I'll admit, I do too, like I'll get such negative tweets that I often respond to them or retweet them because, you get a kick out of it. But the flip side to that is all the positive ones too. And I'm not the guy that retweets positive stuff, you know what I mean? I think that's, I don't know, that feels to me insincere and like fishing for compliments, you know what I mean? I certainly do appreciate all my fans and all the positive things they say about me and tweet at me and stuff like that, but I just think some of the people that are overly tweet happy with the retweeting of compliments, it's a little much. But I've also tried to stay away from the negative stuff. But it's been an even keel, trust me, people like to dwell on that negative, but there is a lot of positive out there, and I do hear it, and I do appreciate it.
One of the things I enjoyed talking to you about was that simulated fight that you had, at Roufusport, where you'd actually do a walkout, and it was a simulated number of rounds. Duke Roufus was the referee. Have you been continuing doing those? Because at the time, what you had told me is that you basically wanted to have a pretend amateur career to get you kind of used to that feeling. Did you guys continue to do that? How many, quote unquote, amateur fights have you had now to date?
I think we only did 2, and it was more or less for cameras. You know what I mean? They're going to film it. You're going to see it somewhere. It's going to air sometime. I don't know when, but yeah, it wasn't. I think that was just like a thing to get my feet wet. You know what I mean? And then you got tape, and then you can watch, and you can go, wow, okay, that's what I need to do more of. Well, that's what I need to do less. So it was really just a tool to get me acclimated to get to where I need to be.
And you're fighting Mickey Gall, who is a guy who we don't know a whole lot about. He's a new fighter as well, which makes sense. You're a guy with a 0-0 record. It should be a guy who does not have a long professional background. But one thing that I think we can say about Gall immediately is that he doesn't give you much of a second opportunity if he gets you hurt. That's one thing that he's shown in this fight so far, is that he knows how to finish guys quickly. And as a new fighter who's getting in there for the first time, how do you try to learn that part of it? How much, because it's just a foreign thing for the rest of us, who've never been in a fight before, where you get hurt, but you're not out, and then you got to defend yourself and be comfortable trying to do that. What is the best way that you found to try to prepare for that element of it?
Well, you spar. You go live as often as you can. And you don't try to wreck shop every single time, but we're on a schedule where we spar twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week, depending on who you are, what you're doing. But with the team, we'll do a big glove day and a small glove day, and then after that you just drill. You drill positions. You work on what you work off of what you did in sparring. I ask a lot of questions. I'm sure I'm probably the most annoying person on my team, but after I spar with everybody, what did I do wrong? What did I do right? Well, what do you think I should work on? This, that, and then I filter it all through Duke. Scott Cushman, Daniel Wanderlei, Fred Holmes, I got a lot of coaches, and they're all, under one umbrella, and I just work off that. And I think drilling, I think, is the key in recognizing positions.
I know that you can't, think this way when you're in the gym and you're practicing, you're preparing for a fight. But given, everything that's happened and how long it's taken you to get an official date, and now it's like Mickey's been waiting on you. The fight's going to happen in September. How much do you think about don't get hurt today? Like, is it just impossible to not think that way? Like, if I get injured, that's just like I can't afford that at this point. I cannot afford any more setbacks. Is that impossible to get out of your head, or when you're in the moment and you're practicing, it's pretty easy to forget about that kind of thing?
I don't think about it at all. I think about it more if I'm driving to the grocery store. You know what I mean? When you're going live or you're sparring, you're doing anything. I don't think about getting injured or getting hurt. Because I think that's when you tense up. You know what I mean? That's when you get rocked. So I'm just working on being as relaxed and as loose as possible. But yeah, honestly, I really don't think about it. Now I probably will because of you, Brett. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I would think it would be in my mind. It's like you get a setback with the shoulder, you get a setback with the back, and now it's like with the amount of people that are already saying he's never going to make it to the octagon, he's never going to get there. I don't know. I would have a hard time putting that out of my mind, but. It's a good thing that obviously you're not having that problem. And speaking of the people who give you a hard time on Twitter, I was wondering if something that happened recently was you sort of trolling them, and that was this claim that it's not far-fetched that with 3 or 4 fights you could be getting a title shot in the UFC. And that to me sounded like something that maybe he's familiar with how the trolling game works, and that looks like a troll job to me. Is that what you were doing there?
Oh, realistically, am I going to get a title shot? Even if I put together 3 or 4 wins, realistically, how many wins has Wonder Boy got?
Yeah, true. 7, 8, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So people bite on stuff, and I look forward to the sound bites that they misconstrued and get backwards and from this interview. But they're always going to be there. They're always going to be there for the headline. So. Yeah, sometimes I like to go fishing, Brett.
Well, last question for you, and then I'll let you go and celebrate 4th of July. But you've been thinking about this now for a long time. You signed with the UFC in December of 2014. Now that you've kind of taken it in stages. You got an opponent, and now you have a date. How much is it on your mind? Are you dreaming about it at night? Are you losing sleep thinking about it? Now that it's real and that it's got a date attached to it, how much of life-consuming is it for you?
I sleep like a baby, but it's definitely the last thing I think about when I go to bed, and the first thing I think about in the morning. And I have a goal, I have a date, I have an opponent, and I'm on that march, as Duke says. And to me, I'll get 1% better every day, and it'll be more than enough to beat Mickey on the 10th.
And actually, one more for you. UFC 200 obviously coming up, and Brock Lesnar, coming out of the WWE and facing Mark Hunt. What is your reaction to that whole thing? Does that add a level of interest to it for you? What kind of Brock are you anticipating seeing in the octagon on Saturday?
I don't know. I think that's part of the allure. You know what I mean? I'm going to be there, obviously. And if I wasn't, I'd be watching it on my couch. But I'm heavily excited for this entire weekend. There's like a whole bunch of awesome fights, and that's definitely one of the attractions. What Mark Hunt's going to show up, what Brock Lesnar's going to show up. Is there such thing as ring rust? Is Brock's stand up any better? Is Mark Hunt's wrestling any better? I definitely think it's an interesting matchup. And I'm not going to say anything that's really going to cast light on a winner or a loser. But if Mark Hunt connects, it's probably all over. Can Brock take Hunt down? It might be over if he does. We'll have to see. But I'm definitely looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah, and I would think being in that atmosphere will just even raise your excitement level for your own fight even more so if that's even possible. So hopefully we'll see you out here in Las Vegas. And if I don't see you, enjoy the fights and best of luck through the rest of your training camp.
Oh, luck is for losers, Brett. Come on.
Yeah, you don't need it, right?
It's a good skill.